This is an iHeart podcast.
Hi, my name is Enya Umanzor.
And I'm Drew Phillips.
And we run a podcast called Emergency Intercom.
If you're a crime junkie and you love crimes, we're not the podcast for you. But if you have unmedicated ADHD...
Oh my God, perfect!
And want to hear people with mental illness, psychobabble...
Yes.
Then Emergency Intercom's the podcast for you. Open your free iHeartRadio app, search Emergency Intercom, and listen now.
Just like great shoes, great books take you places. Through unforgettable love stories and into conversations with characters you'll never forget.
I think any good romance, it gives me this feeling of like butterflies.
I'm Danielle Robay, and this is Bookmarked by Reese's Book Club, the new podcast from Hello Sunshine and iHeart Podcasts, where we dive into the stories that shape us on the page and off. Each week, I'm joined by authors, celebs, book talk stars, and more for conversations that will make you laugh, cry, and add way too many books to your TBR pile. Listen to Bookmarked by Reese's Book Club on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Books is the official audiobook and ebook home for Reese's Book Club. Visit apple.co/Reese Apple Books to find out more.
Betrayal Weekly is back for season 2 with brand new stories.
The detective comes driving up fast and just like screeches right in the parking lot.
I swear I'm not crazy, but I think he poisoned me.
I feel trapped. My breathing changes.
I realize, wow, like he is not a mentor. He's pretty much a monster.
But these aren't just stories of destruction. They're stories of survival.
I'm going to tell my story and I'm going to hold my head up.
Listen to Betrayal Weekly on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Dr. Joy Harden Bradford, host of the Therapy for Black Girls podcast. I know how overwhelming it can feel if flying makes you anxious. In session 418 of the Therapy for Black Girls podcast, Dr. Angela Neal Barnett and I discuss flight anxiety.
What is not normal is to allow it to prevent you from doing the things that you want to do, the things that you were meant to do.
Listen to Therapy for Black Girls on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Dirty Rush, the truth about sorority life, with your hosts, me, Gia Giudice,
Daisy Kent,
and Jennifer Fessler.
Hi, you guys. Welcome back to another week of Dirty Rush. I am Jenn Fessler, and today we want to get into the minds of what Rush sorority was really like back in the day and how it has changed. So I am the ripe old age of 57 years old. I graduated from the University of Texas in 1990. So picture Rush, although I actually rushed as a junior in 1988. And I can tell you right here, right now, just to spoil the ending, it was a lot different. And I'm also going to bring in our guest today. Her name is Katie, and she is here because she is from sort of my generation. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Wait, I'm sorry. I don't even know where are you from? 57.
Yeah, I'm 50. I rushed in the 90s. I was in a house in the 90s. And yeah, I mean, so much has changed, I think.
Right. So it really has. Thank you so much for joining me because we really do want to talk about this. I think it's interesting, our perspective, not only of the way that we rushed and we pledged, but also how different it is from what our daughters are doing now. Do you have kids going through it? Because my daughter went through it in Delaware.
Yeah, I don't have kids, but I have that are going through it. But I have a number of friends whose kids are or have gone through it.
Yeah.
And so I've been asked to write recommendations. And wow, okay, that was like the first signal. This is really different. Because back in the day, like we really thought through who's going to write our recommendation and, because it mattered. Yeah. More than that, like if your mom or grandma or aunt or somebody, if you were a legacy, if they were like in your house, that also really mattered. Yeah. And it's super interesting because when I went to the website a couple of years ago, I wrote the first recommendation for a friend's daughter. And I went to the website and it actually explicitly said that they've changed the whole process. They have clearly stated there is no preference given to legacy, to any of that, and that they really want to be more inclusive. And so it also told us we can write a recommendation if we want, but they don't even really allow you to write a recommendation. All you do is fill out standard information about the person.
No, my daughter, I wanted her to, I was a Phi at UT. I was an AE Phi, and I wanted her to go Phi at Delaware. Turns out she wanted Alpha Phi, but I remember thinking like, oh great, she's going to have, such a great shot just because her mom was a Phi, her aunt was a Phi. And yeah, it definitely was like that for us. Although I did not have anybody I didn't have any legacy when I was going through it. So, but yeah, things have changed. I mean, that's just right. That's just like the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's different now.
It's an interesting thing. Like, I mean, I get the idea that you want to be more inclusive, but there's also something about the tradition of the whole thing, and it's really special to a lot of people. So, but yeah, and then like, being a rushie is also so different from being in the house. It's like such a different experience.
I think that's probably still true. Well, first, how about you tell me a little bit about your experience? Like, did you go in? Where did you go to school? What was your house? What was it like going through it? Did you know you wanted to be in a particular sorority?
It's interesting. So like the experience was so different. I mean, I have stories from being a rushie, and I have some funny stories about being a member on the other side. As a rushie, you're nervous. You hope they like you. And not all goes according to plan. I mean, like I remember there was a girl when I went through Rush who didn't realize that the back of her skirt was all bunched up in her pantyhose elastic. Her underwear was showing. She'd been walking around to parties at different houses and nobody told her. Like, so embarrassing. I mean, I didn't see it, had I seen it, I would have told her. But like, were people not noticing? Were people nervous? Like, why does that happen? But you're so nervous.
Yeah.
Another thing I remember going through Rush is I went to UC Berkeley. There was a famous guy at the time who'd walk around naked. He was called the Naked Guy. And like, you'd hear about this guy. Well, on the first day of Rush, which was before school even started, we were brand new freshmen. This guy was deliberately circulating the sorority area as we were running between houses. And it was like, again, like, do you acknowledge it? Do you pretend you don't see it? Because you're so nervous and you're so focused and you're running around. Anyway, it was a perfect welcome to Berkeley.
I'll bet. Well, let me just ask you, because I can't emphasize enough that not having social media, not owning a cell phone, like it was a whole different thing. Like we were lined up, and maybe that is sort of similar, went from house to house. I can't even remember, like, I guess how I got the instructions in terms of, what to do, where to go, where to show up when. I just remember standing with groups of strange girls and being shuffled from house to house. And is that how you did it?
I mean, totally. I mean, it's like the whole thing was really confusing, right?
Right.
But it actually was more organized. Like at first I was like, are they just going to leave you? Like, is it just randomly a party? Now I'm an outgoing person. Like I'll go up to anybody and like, introduce myself and say hi, but not everyone does. But you kind of worry, like, are you going to these parties and are you going to sit there awkwardly and is no one going to talk to you? But actually it was really organized from what I remember. You got a schedule, told you what time you're going to what house.
Right. Oh, right. You're right. I do remember that.
And then you went as a group and then like you go to the house and they'd open the door and usually they'd like, I don't know, there was like a performance and maybe the girls would sing a song and like welcome you into their house. And then it's interesting because from the Rashie's perspective, it just seems like you go in the house and a bunch of people come and talk to you. There was never a moment that you're without somebody, right? Yeah. Like they made sure that there were always like probably a few people talking to you. And it's so interesting because on the other side, from the member perspective, it was incredibly well organized and orchestrated. Like we had teams and the teams rotated like a rushie would be invited to sit at a certain seat in the living room or wherever. And then the members had teams and the teams would rotate to specific seats so that each team would meet the same girl and we'd all like have something to say about the girl.
I remember when I remember that my sorority, we would put the girls, that we really wanted, because we would do skits as well, or songs. So we'd put the girls that we really wanted in like the front 2 rows, let's say, before the skits. So that we could, I know, like,
oh, that's so funny. We didn't
be able to like
to
make
do
eye
that.
contact with them. And I remember actually, because I already had friends in Phi. So I remember being in one of those front 2 rows, not even realizing that, whatever, that meant something. But there were all those kind of little like behind the scene tricks that everybody got to kind of look at, And also, I don't know if you felt this way, but I went to so many houses that I knew, not only did I not want to be in those sororities, I knew that I had not a chance of being in them. And part of that for me was that in 1988 at University of Texas, Jewish girls weren't really getting in to the other sororities. So, and I knew that for me, it was going to come down to these 3 Jewish sororities. And that is, it's really how it was. Like, I have friends who went to school in Dallas and then went to UT and watched their very dear friends go into sororities that they knew they couldn't get into. And this is now really, we're going back in time, but still, that actually existed. And, it was, so I just knew automatically there were 3, but I remember going into all of the other houses and also just feeling, I was insecure when I was that age anyway. What was I, 21? And just watching all these beautiful girls, and just feeling less than and insecure. I don't know. Did you have any of that? Was it like that at Berkeley?
Oh, wow. That's so interesting to hear, because like I heard about that more from my mom's generation. Berkeley, right, because it's California. It's not Berkeley and California and Texas are so different in the 80s and 90s, right?
Right. Yes.
Because, I don't remember there being a Jewish sorority, but there definitely were Jewish fraternities. Not because Jewish guys couldn't join the others, but more because there were groups that just liked and I think there were non-Jewish members of those Jewish fraternities. So so Berkeley, it sounds like, was quite different, but oh my gosh, it's kind of heartbreaking also hearing your story of like going to these houses and seeing these beautiful girls and feeling less than.
I had the information ahead of time. I knew that there were going to be 3 houses that were probably going to be interested in me.
Right.
And so it wasn't a big surprise, but it was just like the other, just rushing the other ones. It was just rote. It wasn't, like, oh my God. But I still remember walking in and just feeling so intimidated. And houses, the physical houses at Texas are overwhelmingly huge and beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, it's exactly what you would picture in terms of Greek life in the South. Mm-hmm. And it was, I just remember, seeing all of the girls seemed so perfect, and they just looked so perfect, and they had it down, and I did not.
Well, and that was created to be that way, right? Because every house, like, everyone was smiling. Everyone was like, they were trying to put their best selves forward,
right?
Because they wanted to be the house everybody wanted, right? Like, and so some of that was like contrived. It really was contrived. And some houses maybe did it better. Like, I do remember, like, some houses just seemed more joyful and beautiful and perfect and all of that. It's interesting though, because what I do remember is, the members could not speak to Russies, even if you knew them. So there was like that whole rule. But secret, like, to your point, like, which house might you end up in? And if you knew each other, secret messages. I remember these secret messages being sent between members and Russies by parents, actually, because the houses, because it's interesting. You talk about being a Reshi and being nervous and the house is looking perfect, but on the other side of it, the houses didn't want to waste invitations on people that didn't want their house.
Right.
It's right. Like, as much as they appeared like, oh, you want us more than we want you.
Right. Right.
It was really interesting. And the reason these secret messages were passed is because the houses wanted to know what all the Reshis that they liked were thinking.
And that went through the parents. My mother had 0. I don't even know if she knows that I was in a sorority to this day. So I can't imagine. She was definitely not passing notes with other moms. But I have not heard that.
And and I remember, like, among our group of friends, because like we knew a lot of the people in the houses that we wanted to join, and our parents knew each other, and so these secret messages would come, and someone would take a survey. Okay, rank your preferences. Which house do you want? And then they'd send it back.
Right.
But there were also,
I'm sorry, did you go in like with the dream house? Like, did you know before the process started that you wanted to be?
I had a sense of which houses I might want to join. And I will say the house I ended up joining, from the first day was like, I was like, that is the house I want to join. Like, it just was so clear to me from day one. And it stood out to me so much from the others.
Right. In what way?
So I got lucky. I found, first of all, it was like, I'll use the word, it was so joyful. Like, you walked in, it was joyful. I mean, the physical house itself, in my opinion, was also the most beautiful of all the houses. And many of these houses were really beautiful. Like,
Right.
there's a famous architect named Julia Morgan. She had designed a lot of these houses. These are like former mansions, that are converted. And so a lot of them are really beautiful. But physically, this house was beautiful. It was so joyful. The girls in the house, I just really connected with them. I just felt like they were my people. They were fun, smart, interesting, and it just seemed like there was such a special camaraderie among the members. And that just really spoke to me.
Right.
It felt comfortable for me.
It felt
and
comfortable.
Happy. Every time I was there, I was like, I don't know, there's just your gut. Sometimes it's a gut check.
Yeah. I knew that I wanted to be a FI. Because I was rooming with 3 FIs, so I knew that was the way it was going to go. But it was interesting because when I walked into SDT, I felt really comfortable there in a different way. And the reputation at the time was so ridiculous, but there was, the FIs were pretty girls, and SDT, those were the nice girls, and I felt so comfortable there. But there was almost this feeling of, I'm going to be a FI. And so I wonder how many girls go through it, and they have this idea of where they're supposed to be, right? So this is what do they call it now? The top tier sorority. And this is where, I hope that they allow themselves to go into these other ones and connect and feel like potentially it's a fit. I mean, I think I felt like maybe even it was more of a fit at SDT, but I was already sort of like destined to be in AFI, and I'm glad that I was. I made fabulous friends. I had a ball, but I can't say that I had such an open mind. Did you?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I just wrote a recommendation for a friend's daughter for, she's going to Wisconsin. And what I said to her was, and apparently what her mother told me was that that's the house she wants. That's her top choice.
Right.
And what I told her, the daughter, was keep an open mind. I said, first of all, and she's also really nervous. She told me I'm like super nervous. And I kind of explained the process. I was like, don't be nervous. But what I told her too is you're interviewing them as much. I mean, interviewing, I'll use that word, but don't forget that you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. And don't forget, to keep an open mind. I said, I've had friends whose daughters thought they wanted a certain house and they ended up joining a different one.
Right.
Because that was the house they loved. So I think you're exactly right. I mean, I told her, don't forget, you might change your mind, keep an open mind, and it'll make you less nervous too, to think it's not like you're the only one being evaluated here. Cause ask them a lot of questions, try and get a sense of the houses.
It's so funny because when my daughter would use the phrase top tier, I just wanted to puke. I was like, Rachel, I don't even know. But guess what? I mean, we had that back then too. We just didn't have, the words to attach to it. And so it's because everybody knew, which sororities were the top, and there were some that were known for one thing and some that were known for another. And I also look now on TikTok specifically, but these skits, they're not even skits. Like back in the day, because I was skits chair or whatever it was after I pledged, and it was songs that we would write on loose leaf paper to musicals or to like Broadway. Now it's no joke. These are full-fledged performances. These girls are dancers and they are gymnasts. I don't know what's happening. Lipping. I mean, don't you see that on TikTok now? I'm like, wow. And they're all right.
I mean, yeah, ours were like
not like
know,
that. Ours were way simpler, maybe a little sweeter, more clothes for sure.
More clothes, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we did have like a theme day where we do like, I think we did a Barry Manilow song, Copacabana, and we like decorated the whole house and we like did a whole performance. But yeah, it was not like the TikTok level performances you see now. It was like us, like, whatever. But it was fun, and that was the fun of it. But it certainly wasn't as polished as they might do now. But actually, like, interesting. I mean, just 1 second, going back to what you were saying about like the expectations being open. I do remember girls not getting the house they wanted and getting a different house, and yet being happy with that house. Like sometimes, what you don't get, like you get the right thing in the end.
Well, it sounds like you really you knew and you went in there and you felt it. And I'm guessing that you felt that way throughout the 4 years that you felt, because I don't think I felt always like I fit in. I mean, I don't know if I would have fit in better to a different sorority, but I definitely didn't feel like the same as. And that could have to do with the fact that I was such an insecure, young person. And I don't think I was really comfortable even, being me at that point. But I definitely had, the girls they just all felt like they had their shit together, and they all had either boyfriends or they were dating all the time. And I mean, this is just, I would walk in there and feel a little bit like a fraud.
Oh gosh,
you did not have any of that.
That's so hard because it's not like, you choose a college and you may not like it. You can transfer, like you can't transfer sororities. You join once, and if it doesn't work, you deactivate. So that is
well,
so
no, it
hard.
wasn't, but it wasn't, I don't mean to imply that it was not, like I had friends and we had fun. It just, I don't think it was a great fit. Maybe sorority life wasn't a great fit for me. I don't know. But I also, I had transferred from Boston University because I was homesick, and I had all of these friends from sleepaway camp in Texas, and they were doing mixers and matches, and they were living the sorority life. And I would, with all of the fun that came along with that and the football games. And I feel like I was in the middle of the city school, and I really felt like I was missing out. And I really wanted that Greek life. And back, in 1986 at Boston University, there was not much of a Greek life. So I felt like I was missing out on this whole entire college experience. And, UT was a great place for that, and still is, if you want that sort of classic Greek life experience. But I think I didn't know really, like at that point I was trying to figure out who I wanted to be. And so it wasn't seamless for me, right? Like the transition to Greek life. Was it for you?
But I guess, I mean, it did feel seamless a little bit. I was a freshman. I can understand. It probably was even harder as a transfer, right? Because friendships are already formed. It's harder to break in sometimes. Because like we had people join our house, like they had already been at UC Berkeley, but they joined our house as juniors. And I always kind of remember, I think it was harder for them to form friendships because friendship groups are already formed a little bit. Not to say, people aren't inclusive, but I could see how that would be more difficult.
No, I think I had friends. It was just more of, am I really truly a sorority girl? I don't know. Listen, again, I wouldn't take it back. It was fun, and I have still dear friends.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I got kind of busy with other stuff. And so, to some degree I was kind of more all in the earlier years. And then I kind of got more involved with other stuff. And I feel like I made some of the greatest friends I have there. And I kind of cherish that. But yeah, I mean, I think there was a time that came that I kind of was like, I don't know. I think there's other stuff I might do a little more. And then we had people who deactivated because they just felt it wasn't a fit for them. We definitely had that. And I don't think anyone took it personally.
My name is Ed. Everyone say hello, Ed. I'm from a very rural background myself. My dad is a farmer and my mum is a cousin. So, it's not
What do you get when a true crime producer walks into a comedy club? I know it sounds like the start of a bad joke, but that really was my reality 9 years ago.
I just normally do straight stand-up, but this is a bit different.
On stage stood a comedian with a story that no one expected to hear.
On the 22nd of July 2015, a 23-year-old man had killed his family. And then he came to my house.
So what do you get when a true crime producer walks into a comedy club? A new podcast called Wisecrack, where stand-up comedy and murder take center stage. Available now. Listen to Wisecrack on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, my name is Enya Umanzor.
And I'm Drew Phillips.
And we run a podcast called Emergency Intercom.
If you're a crime junkie and you love crimes, we're not the podcast for you. But if you have unmedicated ADHD...
Oh my God, perfect!
...and want to hear people with mental illness, psychobabble...
Yes.
...then Emergency Intercom's the podcast for you. Open your free iHeartRadio app, search Emergency Intercom, and listen now.
Hello, puzzlers. Let's start with a quick puzzle. The answer is Ken Jennings' appearance on The Puzzler with A.J. Jacobs. The question is, what is the most entertaining listening experience in podcast land? Jeopardy truthers who say that you were given all the answers believe in...
I guess they would be conspiracy theorists.
That's right. Are there Jeopardy truthers? Are there people who say that it was rigged?
Yeah, ever since I was first on, people are like, they gave you the answers, right? And then there's the other ones which are like, they gave you the answers and you still blew it.
Don't miss Jeopardy legend Ken Jennings on our special game show week of the Puzzler podcast. The Puzzler is the best place to get your daily word puzzle fix. Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Did you hear that exclusive? You know she don't lie about that, right? Lauren came in hot.
From viral performances to red carpet looks that have everyone talking, the podcast, The Latest with Lauren LaRosa, is your go-to for everything VMAs. We will be right here breaking it all down. We outside. I'm going to be giving y'all the headlines, breaking down everything that is going down behind the scenes, and getting into what the people are saying. Like, what is the culture talking about? That's exactly what we'll be getting into here at The Latest with Lauren LaRosa. Everything VMAs.
Let's get to it. Time to do it.
I'm the homegirl that knows a little bit about everything and everybody.
To hear this and more, listen to The Latest with Lauren LaRosa from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So, Katie, were there secret rituals, things that you remember as a pledge that you could share with us?
Oh my God. I think being a pledge was like my favorite time in the house. We felt so celebrated. I mean, the members really went all out to celebrate us, to make us feel welcome. We had an awesome pledge leader. You know, one of the chapter members takes the job of being pledge leader. We had an awesome one and we just felt so welcome. We had to learn all the songs of our sorority and we kind of loved that. And we had activities constantly and just we just felt welcome. But one of the things I remember, which was so specific to sororities and maybe sororities in the 90s. I don't know if they still do this. But puffy paint and paint pens on, we would get all these gifts. We had this thing called the secret sis. And then that person became your big sis. And so for a week, you didn't know who this person was. And they would leave you secret gifts. They would plan secret little, I don't know, I got an invitation along with 3 other pledges to show up on the roof. We had this really pretty roof and show up for dinner. And we had this and what are your favorite preferences? Sushi, Italian, whatever. And we showed up and we have no idea who planned this thing, but we had this really awesome dinner. But all these gifts with puffy paint, it was decorated.
Oh my God. Do you remember that?
Pillowed photo albums and little plastic photos and, frames and yeah.
When they get assigned, I guess, little sisters, littles, bigs, whatever. The big, I remember with Rachel, I've never seen anything like it. She would get boxes upon boxes of clothes and jewelry, and her big was like the boxes were it's a whole.
Oh my God,
different
it's
scene now.
like much. We got little like ribbons.
I mean, it was crazy. Yeah.
Oh my
Do you remember?
gosh.
You know, it's funny because you talk about. I remember there was always like there was a mean. There was like what's it called? Like a mean pledge chair and a nice pledge chair.
Oh,
So it
that's
was almost
funny.
like they almost like did that. I want to say on purpose, and they were like pledge whatever. Anyway, so at one point, one of like the initiation rituals was that they kidnapped us, right, and they took us to some room somewhere, and they had a scale in the room.
Oh God!
And they told us that they were going to weigh us and line us up in order of our weight. And I thought I was going to pass out.
Wow.
Right? I mean, they didn't do that.
Oh my God.
They didn't in the end do it. It was a joke, but it was not a funny one. But there were some, like, that was like the mean, there was a mean one and a nice one.
Yeah, I heard about. So here's the difference between you and I are a few years apart in age. And that's the difference, right? The few years that we're apart, a lot changed already because there had been some major hazing incidents.
Yep.
I mean, not to say we didn't have stuff like that, but and now I think it's probably like they take it very seriously. Because these things are addressed in a very serious way. But like, I remember hearing stories that, they would take pictures of the pledges in like a bikini or something, and then they'd circle the fat. On the picture. Like I remember hearing stories. We didn't have that. I mean, we did have a bit of like, I would call it fun hazing. Like it was,
like wearing stupid shit on campus. Right.
Yeah. Like that kind of stuff. It wasn't anything that felt traumatic for me. Now that said, like, I don't know, there might've been people who did feel whatever they were asked to do was traumatic. And there was like a little bit of like tough love that maybe came from like some of the seniors or something like that. But like sometimes what I realized is it meant like, they'd make you take shots or they'd like kind of help you. Now it's interesting, the kidnapping, we actually reversed it. We had a tradition called Pledge Sneak Night where we would plan to kidnap the whole chapter and all the members, and we planned like a whole fun party. And that was always like one of the traditions I loved about being a pledge. We had the best time. We really did a whole like extensive, like we actually rented a bus and like went all over the Bay Area. And we had like a whole succession planned.
I love that.
And then the joke is we always did it like Monday night was chapter meeting night. And so that was always the easiest time to do it. Cause like you never knew when you could get everyone together. And like members would always kind of as a joke pretend to escape the room. Like we try and lock them in and get everyone in there. And I think we hired a fireman stripper to come in because it was a surprise. And then we had a bunch of fraternity guys come and guard the doors so that no one could get out and chase people down. But that was something. I was always a fun tradition, and it was fun for members too because you never knew. Every pledge class did something really different and really fun. But no, I mean these are good memories, and I mean, but I also remember like as a member, we knocked down, drag out fights over girls during the rush process. Like it was and I wonder how they do it now. Like. In light of like how they've changed even the recommendations to make things more inclusive, I wonder how they manage like back when we were in sororities, like the process was every day a rushie gets a bunch of invitations. Like at the end of every day, the house has to decide who to invite to the next day. And the numbers come like every day, rushies visit fewer houses and the numbers get cut. And so like, as you get toward the end of rush week, it's a really hard decision for the houses to decide who to invite because like girls get, members really want certain people. So like at the end of every day, we would lock ourselves in the dining room and discuss every single girl. And it got
There's like
really
a projector,
tense.
right?
Yeah, it got really, really
and the
tense.
picture would come up.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, and sometimes we were still debating like long after midnight and like the wee hours of the morning because we couldn't come to consensus.
Right. I remember we would literally just put our heads down. I mean, this is how, talk about like good old days and like raise our hands.
Yep.
I don't know how, like there was no, like that's how the decisions were made in the end. And we weren't supposed to obviously see each other's vote, but I don't know,
Right?
everyone was peeking.
But
Yeah.
the discussions, they would go on and the arguments. And I mean, it really I remember one of the members stood up and said she would deactivate if we didn't give a bid to one of the rushies that she loved. Like it got really, I mean, this was a passionate thing. Like, and so when rushies like think, oh, I got to impress them, like it's a hard decision for the houses too, right? It's not like, sometimes they have to cut girls they don't want to cut or can't agree on, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What about, so now let's say we're in the sorority and I'm wondering, well, first, did your sorority have a certain reputation on campus? Was it known for anything?
I mean, I've been like staying away from saying like we were kind of the it sorority, you know what I mean? The one everyone wanted. I've stayed away from like trying to be elitist or whatever, but I think to some degree our house was maybe thought of that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say from like my perspective, like some of the greatest girls were in that house, they were smart, they were pretty, they were awesome, they were fun, they were great people, they were good friends. Like,
I remember like it was also important because you're trying to figure out how to get into the best house so you could meet the best guys, right? Like, so
interesting. Because there was sort of alliances between certain houses and certain fraternities a little bit. Like the fraternities would invite certain houses to their parties and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But
I remember it's funny that you say that because we used to have mixers. This is not all about, I don't mean to make this all about religion and being Jewish, but that's just my experience. But I remember that some of the frat houses, like Jewish girls, had this reputation that like it was okay for them to have sex before marriage.
Oh, interesting. And the Catholic and religious ones, not so much. Oh, yeah.
And so, a lot of the houses would want to like have mixers with us. And just in terms of mixers, do you remember? So first we would have a match. So we'd have matches and then mixers. And at the match, you got asked, hopefully, lots of times you didn't, but you got asked to, you got asked to the mixer and then the match. Yeah, went to a mixer and then you got asked to the match. And if you didn't, you hung out with the girls that didn't get asked. I don't know if you had anything like this.
Oh my gosh.
I'm really sorry. I think I am painting this like it was this traumatic, experience for me. And I loved being a Phi and I loved Greek life. It just wasn't always, it wasn't maybe always right and didn't always feel natural for me, but I would do it again. I don't want to make it sound like it was so awful. It really, really wasn't. But like things, I just remember that it was so intense. Like, I don't know what the situation was with you in terms of like the mixing and matching with frats, but that was such a big part of it all, for us back then. And, you couldn't even at UT, like you did not go to football games if you didn't have a date. So obviously UT is a huge football school. So you didn't go if you didn't have a date, and when you did have a date, you got dressed up for these football games. I mean, I'm talking about, how things have changed, obviously.
Yeah. Has that changed in the South?
Yeah, I've heard that it has, but I would think so. I mean, we're in, 2025. I hope that things would have evolved a bit.
Yeah. Or the football games too. Like you don't need a date. I mean, we were always very aware that in California, it was really different than the South.
Right.
Like sorority life was just different.
I bet you it still is.
I'm guessing probably that.
Right.
I don't know. I would think so. Like some of the traditions are just a lot stronger in the South, maybe.
Yeah.
And we were a lot more casual about things. Like I remember hearing about like friends at Southern schools needing dates to go to the football game.
Yeah.
And getting dressed up because that was not what we did at all.
Right.
And a lot of the parties, I mean, the way parties worked for us was a little less structured that way. So like fraternities might have a big party, and then they might have date parties where each guy would ask a date. And then we had I think all of our parties were date parties where you'd specifically ask a date. We might have had some bigger ones, but generally, I mean, it was different too, right? Because a fraternity at the time would have parties at their house, whereas we were not allowed to have parties with alcohol at our house.
Right.
And so we would have to like rent a bar or a restaurant or something like that.
Right.
And so a lot of times it was date parties. You'd ask your own date. And so there wasn't really like a structure around who got invited, who didn't get invited. Can you go? Do you not go? Right. And if a guy asked you to a date party, you know, you didn't feel left out if you didn't get asked or whatever. There were, I mean, but we did have some legendary parties. I remember, in fact, we got in big trouble for one of our parties. We got put on probation, like everything
Why?
changed
Do
after that.
tell.
Oh my God. So we had a party called the Set Up Your Buddy Party, where you did not choose your date. Someone else chose your date for you. And it was also a graffiti party, which meant that
you wear all white.
Yep. We wore white
you-
t-shirts and we had pens and
Right.
everyone would just graffiti all over each other.
Right.
Which like I would equate to like, you know how Halloween parties sometimes get a little more like wild because when you're dressed as something else, you lose your inhibitions a little bit.
Yes.
I guess I'd equate it to that. So, and so the way it worked was you would actually make a t-shirt for your date, not knowing who your date was going to be. And it was usually some kind of funny, like, and so that way, and then the dates the girls would all go to the party location first. And then the dates were supposed to go to our house after we left and pick up the bag with their name on it that had the t-shirt and whatever, like fun snacks and a shot, you know, whatever, those little bottles of alcohol, whatever was in it, shot glasses. And pens, of course, graffiti pens. And so like, I remember, I think I was I was Where's Waldo and my date was Waldo, or like you'd find some like combination, I don't know, spaghetti, meatballs, whatever.
Yeah.
And so what happened the year I was a pledge is the party got really out of control. And the party actually ended early because one of the guys, so the party was at this like restaurant bar, I don't know what it was, that was like on the water and there were some docks and stuff under. He fell off a railing. Like he was just, I remember watching him, like he was sitting there and there's his date. And then all of a sudden he's gone and like his date's standing there like with her arms up, like looking lost. And it took a while for people to figure out that he was sitting on the railing. He fell off the railing. Fortunately, he fell onto a dock rather than in the water where he probably would have drowned. People were so drunk.
Oh my God.
Nobody even realized what happened. And an ambulance came, party was over.
Right.
But the problem was, since the ambulance came and like all this stuff had to happen, what they saw was that girls were passed out under the sinks in the bathroom. Like no one noticed what was happening. Like it was really a disaster.
Right.
We got in huge trouble. We were put on probation from the national organization and our advisors. They brought in an alumni from our sorority who was a recovering alcoholic to talk to us about alcoholism and how, you know, just having a good time drinking in college is how, you know, she used to just think it was fun in college until she realized it wasn't. So yeah, I mean, sometimes parties got out of control.
Yeah, but they, you know, the difference though between then and now. So I don't know how you guys did it, but like we didn't have cell phones, right? So nobody was taking pictures. Because if we did at the time, I'm sure I would have gotten myself into a lot of trouble. But like we used to have like Mr. Photo Tech guy come like a week later after the party, and you could like pay for the memories that you wanted to keep. I don't know if you had that. Like you go through like all these different
Party
pictures, and they were all labeled, and it'd be like AFI and ZBT, Texas OU weekend or whatever it was. And so it was harder to prove that, you know, I don't know, bad shit was going down because you couldn't, there was no real photo documentation of it.
That's right. I loved those parties. I mean, I have a huge Puffy album. I made these albums with like some kind of fabric and like all this like puffy stuff to make it puffy. I have a huge album of all those party pics. I love those party pics. Yeah, we had Mr. Photographer Man, Mark.
Okay,
Mark was
right,
his
exactly.
name. Then we order our pictures. But you're right, things weren't documented.
My name is Ed. Everyone say hello, Ed. I'm from a very rural background myself. My dad is a farmer and my mum is a cousin. So, it's not like...
What do you get when a true crime producer walks into a comedy club? I know it sounds like the start of a bad joke, but that really was my reality 9 years ago.
I just normally do straight stand-up, but this is a bit different.
On stage stood a comedian with a story that no one expected to hear.
On the 22nd of July 2015, a 23-year-old man had killed his family. And then he came to my house.
So what do you get when a true crime producer walks into a comedy club? A new podcast called Wisecrack, where stand-up comedy and murder take center stage. Available now. Listen to Wisecrack on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, my name is Enya Umanzor.
And I'm Drew Phillips.
And we run a podcast called Emergency Intercom.
If you're a crime junkie and you love crimes, we're not the podcast for you. But if you have unmedicated ADHD...
Oh my God, perfect!
...and want to hear people with mental illness, psychobabble...
Yes.
...then Emergency Intercom's the podcast for you. Open your free iHeartRadio app, search Emergency Intercom, and listen now.
Hello, puzzlers. Let's start with a quick puzzle. The answer is Ken Jennings' appearance on The Puzzler with A.J. Jacobs. The question is, what is the most entertaining listening experience in podcast land? Jeopardy truthers who say that you were given all the answers believe in...
I guess they would be conspiracy theorists.
That's right. Are there Jeopardy truthers? Are there people who say that it was rigged?
Yeah, ever since I was first on, people are like, they gave you the answers, right? And then there's the other ones which are like, they gave you the answers and you still blew it.
Don't miss Jeopardy legend Ken Jennings on our special game show week of the Puzzler podcast. The Puzzler is the best place to get your daily word puzzle fix. Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Did you hear that exclusive? You know she don't lie about that, right? Lauren came in hot.
From viral performances to red carpet looks that have everyone talking, the podcast, The Latest with Lauren LaRosa, is your go-to for everything VMAs. We will be right here breaking it all down. We outside. I'm going to be giving y'all the headlines, breaking down everything that is going down behind the scenes, and getting into what the people are saying. Like, what is the culture talking about? That's exactly what we'll be getting into here at The Latest with Lauren LaRosa. Everything VMAs.
Let's get to it. Time to do it.
I'm the homegirl that knows a little bit about everything and
everybody.
To hear this and more, listen to The Latest with Lauren LaRosa from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm thinking a lot about just like the secrets and the traditions that we had that would not, I don't think wouldn't fly today. And I mean, there were certain things like, did you guys have, God, I feel so old when I say this, but we would have the, those ceremonies, the pin ceremonies, if I'm saying it right, where a girl would get pinned and then you'd sit down with a candle. It was called a candle lighting. And we'd sit in the living room and we'd pass the candle around, and whatever girl was pinned, the candle would stop at that girl. And I think about the fact that it wasn't an engagement, right? It was some girl was being engaged to be engaged.
Yeah.
Right? Did you do that? I mean, now, first of all, sweet. I would kill my daughter now. I heard she was pinned. She would have been like, I'll tell you, I'm going to pin you to your bed at home, little girl.
I know. I mean, we didn't. I mean, it's interesting because we used to hear that had been a thing, right? Because like most girls were not. I mean, in the 90s at UC Berkeley, a lot of girls. I mean, some maybe thought they would be getting married soon, but a lot of girls, I don't think were looking to get married right away. Like I think a lot of the girls kind of wanted to a little bit experience life before that. But so we would hear about these things and we kind of thought it was a thing of the past.
Right.
But then actually we did have a pinning. And it was really sweet. There was this, I think when I was like a freshman or sophomore, she was a couple years older and she and her boyfriend had been dating like all through college and they were just the sweetest couple. And he pinned her and it was really sweet. And I don't know if like they even knew like what the tradition or how it was done, but it was really, really sweet. We all were there and they are married still.
Aww.
And, 2 of their kids go to UC Berkeley. I mean, I just saw them. They're happily married. Their kids are like grown up and in college. And
amazing.
It's just the sweetest thing.
You know, I just think this conversation is so interesting in terms of like, you know, Texas versus California and the differences. I don't know if anymore they're so stark, the differences are, but I would think that they like a college like Berkeley, just I would think inherently would be less traditionally Greek.
You're exactly right. And we always kind of knew that. So like, I think California is going to be different than the South, but you're right. And then UC Berkeley, maybe, but like, I think Stanford, so they didn't have a house. So they had to come to our house for their initiation and all the ceremony of everything. And so I would say like probably Stanford's like we were. I don't know about like, you know, UCLA and places like that. Southern California, like USC might have been a little more like a Southern situation. Like I had friends that were in houses down there. That was probably a little closer to what the South was. But yeah, UC Berkeley, I think was certainly less traditional. Although like, you know, some of the rules really got enforced. So, I mean, like with the rush rules, like that you couldn't talk to people, like I got in trouble. So I was actually president of the whole sorority system, the Panhellenic system. Yeah. Like,
so you're kind of like, you're supposed to lead. That's the lead information. I didn't know I was talking to a president.
And the rule was during rush, we actually had to be sequestered. We had to stay at a hotel, like myself, the rush chair and the whole council that was involved in the whole sorority system. We had to extract ourselves from our houses because we had to be unbiased. Like we were part of the whole rush process. We were supporting rushies and we couldn't have an agenda like around, you know, who we wanted for our house or anything like that. And so we had to stay at a hotel. We had to be like sequestered from our house. And it was actually like really sad because I missed my friends. You know, I was like kind of sad. I enjoyed being with the other like people from the council.
Yeah, no, I remember Daisy and Gia, my 2 co-hosts, talking about that.
Yeah, and I got in trouble because you couldn't talk to anybody. I actually went to visit some friends at a fraternity house and someone spotted me and reported it. And I got in serious trouble for that. So like, you know, it was relaxed at Berkeley, but like some things were serious.
There are, I remember like, Daisy and Gia said there was always someone who had to be impartial. It was somebody in Greek life. Yeah. But there was leading the groups, you know, of rushies around.
That's right.
And so it was very important that you didn't know what sorority that person was in. Yes.
Yeah. And then the other thing is like, there were some other things that were like, very specifically UC Berkeley, that was so different. Like, so remember, you know, what I was talking about that, the rush sneak, party, like when the rushies would sneak out and plan a party for all the members. Right. And there was one year where they did like a whole Mexican theme night. And so tequila shots, sombreros, like it was just like a whole party theme. And, you know, in the 90s, there was a restaurant called Chevy's in California. It was like Tex-Mex.
Yeah, I know, because they had it in Austin.
Oh, they had it in Austin
They still
too,
do. Absolutely.
Right? And if it was your birthday, like you'd get a sombrero, they'd sing, you know, it was all part of the celebration. And so it just felt like a way to celebrate. And we had a house next to us that wasn't a sorority. It was actually, UC Berkeley had these theme houses. And that was, I think it was called Casa Joaquina. It was like a house that was with Hispanic people.
Right.
That lived there. And so here's this party. Everybody's like going out to the bus, wearing sombreros, tequila, the whole thing. And they're all standing outside at the house next door or standing outside looking really upset. And And a couple of us stopped and said, is everything okay? And they said, no, it's not. It's actually very insensitive what you're doing. Those hats represent, people who are picking beans in the field. And this is really culturally offensive to us, that to you it's a party, but to us it's heritage. And I think now these things are more understood, how to be insensitive to different cultures. But back then, it wasn't something people understood or talked about.
Right. No, I mean, I had never heard of the cultural appropriation was not something that we thought about back then.
Right. And now, you go to a school before Halloween and they have things posted saying, certain Halloween costumes are offensive to people and you can't do them anymore. Right.
Yeah.
Cultural things. And we didn't know when it got reported to the university. We got in trouble with the university. We had to go through the whole judicial process and a hearing and everything. And it was this really difficult thing because we were almost we didn't know, but we were almost embarrassed to say we didn't know. But that was UC Berkeley. It was a little bit ahead on stuff like that.
It's so interesting because just in terms of, I'm interested in, when you look back at all of your experience, rushing and being in a sorority, the impact that it has had on you. I think that the part where you kind of you're actually learning about what's okay, what's not okay socially, and in terms of just the world around you. I mean, I think that a lot of that good stuff does happen in a sorority. And you're in this little microcosm where you're surrounded by, other women of the same age, and you have an opportunity to really, not just have mixers and matches and parties, but kind of grow and expand your horizons a little bit.
Right. And be a better person, I think.
Do you feel like that after?
Yeah. I mean, I do.
It had that kind of an impact on you?
Yeah. I mean, I would say even if somebody's, they would check our grades. If your grades weren't above a certain level, you'd have to go in and see the standards group,
I think that
which
still
was
exists.
I mean, there was, I would say I mean, the girls in our house studied, got good grades, were serious about school. And I think there was a common sense of values, but that was the culture you chose, right? And the people you chose at the time.
Right.
Some comes from national, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, I absolutely loved having you with me. I think that there's so much, I've now you've ignited this little spark in me. I think it's so interesting to compare colleges on the East Coast, the West Coast, the sorority life and how it differs. Because it sounds like it is definitely different, at some place like Berkeley versus University of Texas. So I'd love to talk more about that.
Yeah.
But I loved having you on. Thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else you want to tell us about, or?
No, this was fun. I think this was fun. I mean, it was fun and interesting for me to learn too and hear about your experience.
Yeah. Well, I thank you. And it's also nice for me to have somebody, you are younger than I am, my friend, but who's not, 25 to talk about all of this. I haven't thought about it or talked about it in a long time. It is fun. Okay. So
all right.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah. Take care.
I appreciate you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Enya Umanzor.
And I'm Drew Phillips.
And we run a podcast called Emergency Intercom.
If you're a crime junkie and you love crimes, we're not the podcast for you. But if you have unmedicated ADHD...
Oh my God, perfect!
And want to hear people with mental illness, psychobabble...
Yes.
Then Emergency Intercom's the podcast for you. Open your free iHeartRadio app, search Emergency Intercom, and listen now.
Just like great shoes, great books take you places. Through unforgettable love stories and into conversations with characters you'll never forget.
I think any good romance, it gives me this feeling of butterflies.
I'm Danielle Robay, and this is Bookmarked by Reese's Book Club, the new podcast from Hello Sunshine and iHeart Podcasts, where we dive into the stories that shape us on the page and off. Each week, I'm joined by authors, celebs, book talk stars, and more for conversations that will make you laugh, cry, and add way too many books to your TBR pile. Listen to Bookmarked by Reese's Book Club on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Books is the official audiobook and ebook home for Reese's Book Club. Visit apple.co/Reese Apple Books to find out more.
I'm Dr. Joy Harden Bradford, host of the Therapy for Black Girls podcast. I know how overwhelming it can feel if flying makes you anxious. In session 418 of the Therapy for Black Girls podcast, Dr. Angela Neal Barnett and I discuss flight anxiety.
What is not normal is to allow it to prevent you from doing the things that you want to do, the things that you were meant to do.
Listen to Therapy for Black Girls on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Betrayal Weekly is back for season 2 with brand new stories.
The detective comes driving up fast and just like screeches right in the parking lot.
I swear I'm not crazy, but I think he poisoned me.
I feel trapped. My breathing changes.
I realize, wow, like he is not a mentor. He's pretty much a monster.
But these aren't just stories of destruction. They're stories of survival.
I'm going to tell my story and I'm going to hold my head up.
Listen to Betrayal Weekly on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast.